Today we're discussing some NHL trade rumors involving the Toronto Maple Leafs, Montreal Canadiens, and the Los Angeles Kings. We'll get on to the latest news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, I want to discuss some more NHL trade rumors today involving three teams. I want to kick things off, first of all, with the Los Angeles Kings and the potential saga here with Ilya Kovalchuk that might hopefully come to an end soon. Now, in yesterday's 31 Thoughts blog by Elliotte Friedman, he did have some information on the situation, more of a reminder really that things could be hopefully coming to a close here between the two sides relatively soon. Now, this weekend coming up, December the 15th, is when the last part of the Ilya Kovalchuk signing bonus is due. Once the Kings pay that to Kovalchuk, it should make things much easier for a potential trade, or he also mentions a possibility that once that's paid, that they very well could likely come to some sort of a termination agreement for the contract to be voided, and we'll see how things go from there. But ultimately, it's not really going to impact the Kings' salary cap situation because it was an over 35 contract. So I believe no matter what happens, that they're still on the hook for his cap hit, which really where the team is at right now for the remainder of this year. I don't really see that being too much of an issue, although he still has another year on the contract beyond the current season. So I'm not really sure exactly how a termination agreement would be worked out, but Friedman believes that some kind of resolution could be coming to a close here once that last part of the signing bonus is paid. Now, ever since they've announced that basically he was going to be a healthy scratch, wasn't going to be playing, so he's not obviously on the ice right now. Teams are not really able to get a look at him for a potential trade. He's appeared in 17 games this year, has 9 points, but hasn't played in a while. So I'm not really sure if a trade is really all that likely considering what he has, for a contract remaining, what kind of cap hit teams would have to take on, etc. The Kings could possibly eat part of that and maybe retain up to 50% as well. So I guess will remain to be seen, but either way, with that last part of the signing bonus being paid out here over the next few days, that very well could make things easier for either a trade or a termination of some sort to be worked out here, and Kovalchuk and the Kings to both hopefully move on from that situation. Now, of course, the Kings have plenty of other situations that they very well could be looking at. Lots of other players have been mentioned in the rumor mill, like winger Tyler Toffoli, defenseman Alec Martinez, even goaltender Jonathan Quick as well. Hard to say if any or all of these guys could be traded. I would think the possibility is most likely for Toffoli, given that he's a pending UFA. Martinez has 1 year left, and Quick has longer on his deal, and with the fact and how he's played, probably seems unlikely that he would be moved. Goalies usually do not get traded closer to the trade deadline. At least it's not as common. So I guess we'll see. But the Kings very well could be a very busy team between now and a holiday roster freeze, and then again before the NHL trade deadline as they continue to retool and rebuild here towards the future. Now, I want to touch on the Toronto Maple Leafs as well. There was another tidbit on the Leafs from Elliotte Friedman's 31 Thoughts blog yesterday that I didn't really touch on in yesterday's video. Basically, he had information from the GMs around the NHL that indicated back when the Leafs were struggling a little bit before they made the coaching change, before Mike Babcock was fired, that they could have easily traded Kasperi Kapanen for other help on the team. So perhaps defensive help, perhaps a backup goaltender. Kapanen's got a pretty reasonable contract for this year and then 2 more years left on it, making a little bit over $3 million. Of course, last year he hit 20 goals, 44 points. He's on pace for very similar goal and assist totals this year. He's on pace for, I think, about 45 or 46 points so far. Roughly the same number of goals. So I guess he's been consistent. Very well could take it up a notch, I guess, if he was given more of an opportunity to play higher up in the lineup, and of course he has at times done so with Toronto, depending on the status of their health with a lot of their other forwards. They battled a lot of adversity with injuries and such this year, which certainly has kind of caused them to have different lineups throughout the season so far. But as we know, the Leafs are a pretty solid team, but they had a slow start. They moved on from Mike Babcock to hired Sheldon Keefe, who certainly appears to be a pretty good coach, is certainly a little bit more creative, changing things up, doing a lot of things very differently than Babcock. They've had some great games, but they're still working on building some consistency to get back to being the contender that many people, themselves included, I'm sure, thought that they would be this year. Obviously, with all these contracts, all these young players getting paid the big bucks now, between Matthews and Marner and Nylander, etc., they are having higher expectations, and obviously losing and not making the playoffs is really not all that acceptable to the organization and its fan base. So taking some big steps forward this year is extremely important for the Maple Leafs and their organization. So In order for them to do that, I think the things they need to address is their defensive play and the backup goaltending situation. Now, we did touch on this a little bit yesterday, that Elliotte Friedman mentioned in his blog that he didn't feel the Maple Leafs were going to be in a big hurry in order to address the backup goaltending situation, that they very well might run with Michael Hutchinson for a little bit. And really, at one point, it was rumored about Tristan Jarry, which seems to be, not likely at this point. Penguins probably aren't trading him, considering how hot he's been. And then, of course, you get Alexander Georgiev with the Rangers, who I still think is their primary target, which, it's a situation to keep an eye on. I think we could see a Maple Leafs Rangers trade later into the year. But with Kapanen being so easily traded, according to other GMs, there's a lot of interest from around the league. He's got a reasonable contract. He could acquire the Leafs some necessary assets to make either a backup goaltending change or add some stronger defense on the back end to be able to shut down other teams. Do you think Kapanen would be the player that unfortunately would become a victim here in the numbers game that would be moved out to help accomplish this? If you look around their roster, none of their big time forwards getting paid the big bucks are going to be going anywheres. Even on the blue line, guys like Morgan Riley's not going anywheres. Tyson Barrie's really played well under Sheldon Keefe. He's a pending UFA, but I don't see him going anywheres. And many of their other D2, or even though they're pending expiring contracts, I don't see them making a whole lot of moves there on the back end, except for maybe wanting to add some more depth and somebody who's stronger defensively. So is Kapanen that trade piece that's going to accomplish that? There appears to be lots of interest. I know at the time, he mentions in his blog post here as well, that the Leafs did not want to do that, and I understand why they wouldn't, but at some point they do have to give up something of value to get something of value. And is he the trade piece that's going to land them that more stellar backup goaltender, or that hopefully that stronger defender that'll help take them up a level and become a stronger playoff and Stanley Cup contender? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and we can continue discussing that further. Now, I also want to touch on the Montreal Canadiens. There's been a lot of talk about this team, and there's some more information coming out about some potential targets that they might be looking at. Now, according to René Lavoie of TVA, he says that the Habs are not showing any interest in acquiring Taylor Hall, which was previously reported, previously discussed here on the channel. There's been a lot of links about Habs and Hall, but as of right now, according to him at least, the Habs are not really zeroing in on a big acquisition like that. We've seen other NHL insiders like Elliotte Friedman and Darren Dreger not necessarily linked to Habs and Hall, but saying that they felt that Marc Bergevin was going to make a big acquisition and wondered if Hall might be their target. But according to René Lavoie, that's not necessarily the case, that they're more focused on adding defensive help, that their forward group is something that they're relatively content with right now, and adding on the blue line would be more of a necessity. Now, keeping all that in mind, there's been a lot of reports about Marc Bergevin really scouting heavily the Chicago Blackhawks, as well as their American Hockey League affiliate in Rockford, quite heavily throughout a big chunk of this season. So you can't help but wonder if one player they're having a look at would be Swedish left shot defenseman Erik Gustafsson. Now, Gustafsson's a pending UFA. He's 27 years old. He's not making a ton of money, just a little over $1 million. So from a salary cap contract perspective, it's certainly reasonable that way. He's coming off a 60-point season last year where he was able to play an elevated role on the Hawks blue line and really produce big time offensively. His numbers are down this year. He's put up 10 points in 30 games, so he's not on that 60-point pace at all, but could he find that offensiveness again playing in Montreal, possibly as a top pair player with Shea Weber? That's certainly a possibility. And we've seen a variety of D partners for Shea Weber play within that top pair, and really nobody's been able to stick there for too long of a stretch right now. So I guess we will see if Gustafsson maybe could be that guy. Now, there could be other players in the Hawks organization that the Habs are looking at. Of course, Marc Bergevin and the Hawks have made some trades in recent years. Of course, he has old ties to that organization where he used to work for the Blackhawks before he became GM of the Montreal Canadiens. So he knows many of the people over there very well, and certainly quite familiar with a lot of their roster and some of their prospects as well, because they've had talks in the past year. So what could Marc Bergevin be scouting the Hawks for? Could we see a trade between these two original six iconic franchises? Could the Habs be looking for help on the blue line instead of at the forward groups? Some other defenders that they could be looking at as well, we've talked about before about the possibility of Shane Gostisbehere, and I guess will remain to be seen how heavily that interest is and if there is any truth to those rumors. But another defender that would certainly fit the bill as well, keep your eye on as well, I think would be Cam Fowler of the Anaheim Ducks. I think Fowler is a player who the Ducks could possibly look to move. The Ducks are in a situation where they're basically going through a rebuild, trying to integrate a lot of their youth, and they're kind of a mediocre team this year. It looked early on they very well might contend for a playoff spot, lot, but things have kind of leveled out right now. And personally, I just don't see them being a legitimate playoff contender. I think they're kind of have stretches of really good play, and then of course stretches where they struggle as well. And they'll probably level out somewhere as be a 500 club, something to that effect, but likely going to need some more work before they become a legitimate playoff contender. Again, at least that's my opinion on that franchise. So they very well could look to move a veteran or two to keep building up their younger players and prospects within the organization, which I do have a fair bit of right now. But Fowler's a guy who very well could be a trade chip for the Ducks. So another guy to potentially keep your eye on. But for right now, it looks as though the Habs are really focused on the Hawks. So I guess we'll see if these two franchises hook up for a trade, and maybe Gustafsson is their guy. Let me know your thoughts on what Marc Bergevin could be really looking for from the Blackhawks, and maybe give me some mock trades down in the comment section so we can discuss further. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.